Hello and welcome to the chat show, The Changemakers. Today I have the gorgeous and beautiful Imitha with me on the chat show, who's joined me from Pretoria, South Africa. Imitha is an author. She is an empowerment and relationship coach. Hello and welcome, Imitha, to my chat show. How are you feeling today, Imitha?
I'm wonderful, thank you. And I'm enjoying spring in South Africa.
Right. I must apologize that I missed to mention that Imitha is also a confidence coach. Yes, right. So, Imitha, give me a small introduction about yourself.
Okay, so as you already said, I'm in South Africa. I have been a coach for a while, and I do have books, right? I've got 2 books, but I want to talk specifically about one, and because it's more linked to why I'm actually doing the type of coaching that I'm doing. And it mainly focuses more on confidence, because this is something that I grew up struggling with. And so being a person who lacked confidence, I was kind of an angry child. I was bitter. I was unhappy without even knowing that I was. And so for me, this really meant a lot, because I realized that people who lack confidence obviously have similar issues that I had. And so how about we actually start transitioning from that into someone who's more happier and who's actually even more able to be more productive and do what they want to do instead of being scared. Right. So that is a bit about me. And yes, I do have a little history in project management. Okay. I have a little history on project management office where I used to work before, and just a couple of things had to change, but I guess we will come across that through our conversation.
Right, absolutely, we'll do that. So to begin with, Imitha, tell me, how was the young Imitha when she completed her studies and when she was looking out for career options? So what was her thought back then?
Okay, so this is interesting, because when I finished my grade 12, right, so now it's time for me to go to tertiary. My results weren't that good, but I know that my mom wanted me to go tertiary. And so that child was really clueless as to what she's going to be doing. And I know that my mom wanted me to be doing tourism. Right. And for me, it didn't make sense. And for, her reason for wanting me to do tourism was that we had a bed and breakfast at home. And so it just made perfect sense to her. But for me, it felt like I would be restricted because I didn't want to be staying at home, and just living that. So I felt that there's something bigger that I could be doing instead of staying home or even nurturing the need that my mom had. And so, so I went on to tertiary. So I was kind of decided, not decided. And also my results weren't as flexible, or would not allow me to just take any course. It had to be one that would allow the kind of marks that I had. But that was a very brilliant journey. It's one of, the life-changing ones that I look back at and I really appreciate.
Right. So how was your life in terms of, you trying to take a decision for your career, for your relationship? What were your thoughts back then?
Okay, so more like, what I just said, it was one of those that the options were very limited because of the results that I had.
Yes.
However, I just knew that I needed to be working with people. Mm-hmm. I needed to also study. Most importantly, I knew that I needed to study, because there was also this desire to study, because in my family, there's very few graduates. Okay. And so I knew that I wanted to do this. And moreover, my history with school wasn't that well, because I didn't finish in record time. I most likely finished 3 to 4 years later, because most times I was failing in school. Okay. And so now I needed to just prove to myself that I can do this,
Yes.
And so the desire to graduate in tertiary, and to just do something that is not too familiar in my family was just the driving force, behind. And also, when I was younger, my mom would always say that, I'm gonna die. You need to do this thing when I'm not around. When I'm not around, who's gonna be helping you? Who's going to be supporting you? And so I think that thing was now ticking even more because I was older now, and I'm thinking, if I don't have this background, if I don't get to do something for myself and my mom is gone, then I'm in trouble.
Right.
And so, yeah, so there was that as well.
I think that's one common thing for moms all over the world, whether she's an Indian mother or she's a South African mom, the feelings are mutual as a mother, I think.
I'm sure. I think mothers just have it's a good interest, they're looking out for their children, yes.
True.
And so it makes sense. It really makes sense.
Yes, right. So now that you told me about, how you were thinking about your career, what actually did you plan for yourself, and were you able to achieve that in terms of your career planning?
Absolutely. So so I got there, I studied, and that is actually where I got to have my first distinction as well, ever in my life, the most liberating time. And so, yes, I achieved a lot. And I remember my mom wanting me to continue as well. And I was like, no, I've had enough. I don't want to continue, and so on. Again, a mom being a mom, that, you know what, this is an opportunity you have, take it. And I was like, no, I am done with studies. However, yes, I accomplished what I wanted to accomplish. And when I look back, yes, I don't have any regrets whatsoever. I know I could have done more, but looking at it, I went back to school again and also graduated. And so it has been a worthwhile and a journey that was supposed to be,
Yes. So, so far what you have shared, did it have any sort of an impact in your decision-making skills or in terms of your confidence? How were you on those areas?
Absolutely. So now, now here's someone who's been, for the first time, able to get their distinction. For the first time, I remember, making a presentation for my communication class. And for the rest of my life, I've known myself to be somebody who can't talk in public and who's basically not good at it, And now to be in a communication class presenting, and you're just one of those people, most likely the first one in class who was complimented by my lecturer, was such a huge deal. Now that was a booster. It's something that I needed, and that's where I got one of my distinctions as well, and so it really changed how I saw myself. It really changed how I started doing things. And yes, over time, obviously, I started to build up on that.
Right.
And also, I remember when I started working as well, my talking abilities is something that I've invested in, because I then knew that I need to start practicing, because I know ultimately I'll be talking. And so I invested in a coaching, a voice training institution, so that I sharpen that. And so my self-confidence has therefore grown from strength to strength, and it's getting better.
Oh, yes, I can obviously see that. The author of the 2 books, it's an amazing journey for sure. Right.
Absolutely.
So what actually attracted you and brought you towards life coaching?
Life coaching, I didn't know much, right? And I didn't know much about life coaching. However, what happened was that I took one of the most bold steps in my life when I resigned from work. I took some time, and there was this thing that you're not in the right place. I was very comfortable, in a sense. I was very happy at work. I was one of those infectious, energetic people in a way, because everyone who was around me was almost happy, because I was usually happy. However, something was just missing. So here I am resisting this desire, because I'm like, okay, if I quit, what am I going to do? I have no idea.
Right.
But ultimately, I put in a resignation, and I have 2 months. I put a 2 months notice, and I started saving, thinking that, okay, you know what it is, if I save, then I'm in a better spot.
Yeah.
I think 2 months later, still clueless as to what I'm going to do, I meet a friend of mine I hadn't met in I think a year or so.
Right.
When I meet the friend, I shared the process that I'm going through, and I'm like, okay, you know what? Right now, I'm actually I'm out of funds. Yeah, at that point, I was out of funds because I had saved, but now the money is gone,
Right.
And so he says to me, have you heard? I think understanding the type of person that I am.
Yes.
He was like, have you heard about life coaching? And so I'm like, what is that? So I started Googling right there and then. So I'm like, okay, I know Lisa Nichols.
Yes.
I've seen this lady. And so after that, after we parted, I got home, started researching. On the same day, I registered for, life coaching, because I needed to know what it was more interesting to me.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the other thing that made it a bit okay to actually move into it was that an old friend of mine, I asked him what do you think I would be good at? I asked him a couple of years ago. So he said, I think psychology,
Okay.
And so when I read about life coaching and this, I was like, psychology, I don't intend on getting a bachelor's degree.
Yes.
That's going to take too long. I don't want to be at school. And so when I came across the life coaching thing, I realized they're quite different, but ultimately they are leading someone somewhere. You're helping a client with something. So I dove into it right there and then that's how I got to. So it's not something that I knew or I had planned, but it was like, oh, okay, this is more like me.
It's nice. It was an interesting share. I loved it. So then you got enrolled into life coaching. You've completed your journey. So what sort of impact do you see in your life now? Like the Imitha that was previously and the Imitha that is now. So in terms of your confidence, decision-making skills, and in terms even of, areas of your self-doubt where you are more sure of yourself now. So what kind of overall impact did it have?
Okay, so right now, I believe that I'm more clearer about who I am. In that sense, that means that when somebody asks for something from me, I know exactly what I can, what I cannot do, why I should and why I should not do it. Because I understand what will go with who I am, particularly when it comes to my values, So I understand that anything that's going to tamper with my values needs to be really, really nurtured. And that's not something that I was well aware of before I started doing coaching. And now, because for me, then values were just values, it's there. But now I realize so much how they impact, who I am and how I do things, who I surround myself with. I hope I said that well. Yeah.
Yes.
And the other thing as well, in terms of decision making, that would be linked with values. However, in terms of decision, I used to make decisions haphazardly. Okay, so I will not dismiss how my intuition works. Okay. It's very powerful, right? I trust my intuition so much. However, when you have done life coaching, it's more precise. It's not just your intuition now, but there's an in-depth understanding as to why, how will it benefit me, and and also being able to accept whatever outcome that will be there. Right. And I don't know if back then I would have been okay, with some of the things, and therefore those are just some of the things, and yeah. And so there's just a vast majority of things. Like I would go on and on. I understand how it impacts relationships as well, how you get to understand Who needs to be around you? And for what? Because most times I know of a time when I would be very accommodative to just everyone. And by the way, being kind is not a bad thing. However, what is the impact that the person has on me? When we part, do I feel empowered? Or do I feel less than? Do I feel that something is taken away? And so for me, those are just some of the things that life coaching has done for me.
I know. At times, kindness can be taken for granted as well. So you have to be very, very aware of what and how much you're giving.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Right.
So, Imitha, now tell me, what are your views about people? Like, I meet a lot of people and who come and ask me questions about what life coaching is all about. And when I ask them certain questions about their lives, they do answer that. And when it comes to coaching, and they are like, I don't think so, I need coaching. They might be doing very well in their life, but I think they have a pretty blank outcome in terms of, because they're doing so well, they're not aware what next to do. Certain people that I meet are stuck at certain areas of their life, but still I don't know why they constantly live in the state of self-denial and are not ready to take any sort of help or coaching. So what would you want to say to these people, that why is life coaching, or any coaching sort of so important for a person to take?
Whoa, okay, that sounds so familiar.
Yes.
It sounds so familiar, and it's something that happens, yes. And one of the things that I would say is that each and every person needs coaching. Like, you know what? It doesn't matter who you are, where you come from, one way or the other. There's a certain part of your life that requires you to take a step up and start to change it. But most importantly, then, it's that identifying it, because if you are unable to see where the issue is, it becomes difficult to even change anything. And so until one starts to feel uneasy, start to get uncomfortable, only then are they able to make a change. And also, I think, as you rightfully said, people get to, think that how I see it is that people think that they will be judged if they go seek for help.
I think it's more to do with the fear, isn't it? Internal fears.
It's absolutely. So people have this fear that if I show that I need help, that means that I am being vulnerable. I'm showing somebody my weakness. And I'm saying this because that's where I've been to most of my life. Like, when I think of things now, when I share some of my stories as well, even on radio. Right. Oh, we forgot to say I do feature on radio. And whenever, sometimes when I share some of my stories, I would say that it's very, you almost feel that somebody sees you as a sweet person. However, only when we are vulnerable are we able to change anything. When we are not vulnerable, it means that we are actually, stuck, or we are just obviously not allowing anything to come, and that does not improve our situation. And this is very interesting, this is a very interesting question that you have. Because I had a similar conversation with a friend of mine, where we were talking about how successful, how some people seem successful.
Yes.
And they are, in terms of what we see, Yes. In terms of, let's say, monetary, fiscal, they are okay. A person is driving a certain car, staying in a certain suburb, and so on. But now that's just talking about the financial life. What is going on with every other aspect? When we are talking about health, are they healthy? Because you'd find that the person stays in that massive house. with so many cars, all the cars and everything, that life has to offer that's external. But the question is, are they healthy?
Right.
Because for them to enjoy whatever else they have, they still need to be healthy.
Right.
Do the same people have people that they can rely on?
Absolutely.
And that's another thing. That's your friendship. How are your relationships?
Right.
And therefore you'd find that that's one part that needs to be worked on. So yes, I'm thriving here, but there will always be a need to add on the other areas of my life so that it is more, not holistic, but it's more fuller and even better than, it seems.
Right. So yes, sometime back you said something about you working and talking on a radio. Why don't you share about the experience about it? What is all that about?
Okay, so radio is where I get to. Okay, so I have a slot every Sunday. It's a local radio station, and every Sunday I get to share whatever idea that I have, but it's mostly on empowering people. And also, with that, the more we surround ourselves with certain conversations, the more our eyes start to open. Now I'm talking from a listener's perspective and not just my, my perspective, because I know, like, I would get, messages from the radio station, where they tell me that this is what people are saying based on whatever we talk about. And so if we allow ourselves to expose, to be exposed to different types of ideas, particularly self-development, because self-development is so broad. However, it's very broad and it's really important.
Right.
And so, so I'm now talking all over, but so radio is an amazing part. And what makes the radio part also interesting for me is that, so at a time when I just finished coaching, learning, qualifying, I got this opportunity. It literally came to me. Right. And the opportunity came when somebody contacted me and he says, you know what, I saw you having a live, and so would you be interested to be on radio? And for me, that was like, wow, but now here I am. This is not, I think it's typical. Everyone would most likely relate to this. I've never spoken on radio. I have no idea how I'm gonna do this. So part of me was scared. Right. But now here's the live coaching factor came in where I was like, no, I can do this. Right. Ordinarily, those are the things that we somehow don't know or don't do ourselves, where because of the fear that you mentioned earlier. Yes. You mentioned fear. Yes. And ordinarily, there's so many things I'd be fearful of, that no, but I've never done that. So how about I practice, and then when I've done the practicing, then I'll take on the whole thing. Yes. However, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do it. Right. I'm gonna fail having done it. That's not something that I would have done without coaching, Yes. And so I was able to therefore use whatever knowledge that I now have about myself, which are my strengths, basically. Yes. That you can do this. You cannot be overpowered, by the small thing. And now I look back and I'm like, wow, you actually did well. You're doing well through life coaching, Yes. the lessons that came with it.
It's a nice, different and a wonderful experience. And I think it also allows you to reach out to a larger audience, isn't it?
Absolutely. It does. It does. And there's nothing as wonderful, with life coaching, how I see it is, it's just amazing knowing that you can impact people's lives without even being in touch, physically being in touch with them. Mm-hmm. Because nowadays we meet people online. It could be through lives. You have your own lives that you do, you connect with people. And the one thing that I know is that there's a lot of people that are impacted, and that also, that you help. And so it just makes a huge difference when you know that you are changing people's lives.
Right, right. So, Imitha, almost we have come towards the end of our chat show. So, let me ask you, are you living the life of your dreams?
Yes.
All right. So, now that you've said yes, okay.
Yes, yes.
I want to know, how close are those dreams from reality? Say, for example, like, before you did the life coaching, I think your dreams were like here, by this far. All right. Then now that you have completed your life coaching, so do you find them any closer to you, or how is it?
Absolutely. And the reason why I'm saying that I'm living the life of my dreams is because I believe that dreams don't end.
Yes, true.
One constantly has something else to look forward to achieve, and so on and so on. But for me, the most important thing is, are you happy where you are? Are you content? And in that way, whatever else you are attracting, all those other dreams, by the time they come,
Right.
I'm already full as I am. And so everything that I want is an extra. It won't make me be me. So I can do without it, but I still want it. And
Okay.
and so I that's what I love about dreams. And yes, what did you ask again?
I asked you, how close are your dreams now? How far were they earlier, and how close have they come to you?
Okay. Oh yeah. Okay. So also, yes. So the dreams are very, very, I would say, close. Remember, I'm leaving some, but they are always close, because for as long as you are moving towards the right direction, they will forever be close. Your dreams will only be further from you because you are either standing on a standstill or even moving backwards, which is possible.
Right.
However, if you're on the right track, with me having gotten coaching, I'm very aware that every step matters, because it's the only way that I will reach all the things that I aspire for.
Right, right. Great, Imitha. I absolutely enjoyed having this conversation with you. I love the small things that you shared, especially for the moms that you shared. That was the best part of the entire conversation. Right. Do you have any parting thoughts to share before we end the show?
I also enjoyed being part of the show, and I really look forward to hearing more about the people that will be changed through the stories. I'm looking forward to hearing the people that would be part of the life coaching program that you are leading, and the changes that they will be making in their lives, because I don't imagine life, and this is not an exaggeration, but I do not imagine my life being like this had I not come across coaching. And so it's important to say that life is it's a progress. It's something that when you start, things don't shift immediately. You need to also play your part.
Yes, true.
And that is only then that you start to see the difference in your life. Yes. And yeah, so with that, really, I'm looking forward to hearing more stories. Absolutely. From your people. True. And you. Yeah. Absolutely. And being part of this again.
Right. So thank you so much that you took this decision to be the change maker of your life, right? You took a good decision. And thank you for gracing my chat show and sharing your beautiful views with me and the audience who will be watching this.
Thank you. Thanks, Nita.